Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Fusion News, and we have another big show for you right now. I am on the phone with 98.5 Jim Murray. He is on the phone right now, traveling from the studio. So, Jim, very big few weeks here in Boston. The Red Sox are winning the World Series. That just happened, and then the Patriots are still continuing their role of winning streak right now. So, big Boston sports news the last few weeks. So with the Red Sox winning the World Series, what was your biggest takeaway from the big win?
That many people, including myself, couldn't have been more wrong about how the postseason was going to work out for them. I thought that they would beat the Yankees in the first round, only because I didn't think that Aaron Boone was a very good manager. I thought that there was like a systematic stupidity that emanated from that team throughout the season. And I thought that ended up catching up with them, too, after you had Aaron Judge walking through Fenway Park, blaring New York, New York. And, I think that ticked off the Red Sox, and rightfully so, and off they went from there. So I didn't really expect them to beat Houston. And after the way that series played out, I was like, okay, now I'm a believer. They're going to end up winning this whole thing. So, yeah, I think they proved a lot of doubters wrong, and they certainly played with a chip on their shoulder, and I understand it. It was an impressive season for them.
Yeah, I remember I had you on before the season started, right before the Red Sox signed J.D. Martinez, and you were kind of iffy about the Red Sox getting J.D. Martinez, and I was too. I just think or thought at the time that J.D. Martinez really couldn't add anything to the Red Sox team, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And, that's when people ask me for predictions. I'm like, oh, well, 99% of the time I'm wrong. But like you just said, you couldn't have said any better. I thought, maybe whoever won between the Yankees and the Red Sox would have won the World Series. But then I thought Houston was a very tough team as well. And then once the Red Sox got past Houston, I knew, okay, against the Dodgers, I had the Red Sox. And if you would have told me the Red Sox would have won all 3 games in Houston, I would have told you you're insane. But the Red Sox have a few guys, free agent guys, this offseason that they really need to put more attention to, like Nathan Eovaldi, like a Steve Pearce, like Craig Kimbrell. Out of those 3 top guys, even Ian Kinsler, I know besides his error, who would you put on there of top priority?
I think it's Nathan Eovaldi. Tony Maz, who obviously is the Maz of Tilburn Maz and has the baseball show during the season, he said this, and I agree completely. I just think with the versatility of Eovaldi, you can use him as a starter, obviously, or you can have him potentially even as a closer if they move on from Kimbrell, which I hope that they do. With some of the numbers that are already being thrown out there and how his agents, already refer to him as the best closer of all time, which is insanity. There's a guy that's, Mariano Rivera, who's out there, years ago. Remember him? That's the best closer of all time. It's insane that his agent would say that. So I'm ready to move on from Kimbrell. It's Eovaldi. I think that he should be the main priority this offseason. Steve Pearce was a nice luxury, but let him go sign somewhere else, couple-of-year deal. I think the priority should still be trying to work out with the rotation here. Maybe your closer ends up being Joe Kelly. For me, it's Eovaldi, and Kelly should be the priority.
So if Craig Kimbrell does not come back to the Red Sox next season, would you put Joe Kelly or Ryan Brazier in that closer role?
I would put Kelly. I mean, if he and I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you told me I would be saying this a month ago, I would have said you were a crazy person. But look, what Joe Kelly, much like some of these other guys in that bullpen, and David Price showed this postseason, they became completely different players. They were almost like mentally unburdened in some way, and they found themselves. And the talent's always been there with Joe Kelly. The problem's been in between his ears. So if he's figured it out, I would like to see him be the closer for this team.
I know, Jimmy, you love David Price, and just the factor I would have to put, there could have been a 3-way tie for MVPs in the postseason. You look at Steve Pearce, and you look at David Price, and you look at Joe Kelly. Those are my top 3 picks for the MVPs for the Red Sox in the playoffs. And let's talk about David Price for a quick second here. I think the main reason why David Price pitched so well was once the Red Sox called him in the bullpen, I think mentality-wise, David Price is a very mental pitcher in my accounts. And I think that once the Red Sox put him in the bullpen, it kind of gave him a little confidence. Do you agree with that? And do you think maybe by the Red Sox showing they had confidence in David Price, it showed with him being a starter pitcher in the playoffs too?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good theory, considering how well he pitched out of the bullpen last year when he was dealing with the elbow injury. So maybe that's what it was. I mean, something definitely clicked with the guy, and he even admitted as so. I think he wanted to paint it more as it was more of a mechanics thing. I think it's a mental thing. It's almost as if, I think everything kind of flipped after Game 4. The way that they won that game, Benintendi making a ridiculous catch. And he's out there in the bullpen, raking away, ready to come in if need be. That game really shook up the foundation, I think, of the Houston Astros. And maybe he just looked into that other dugout and was like, wow, okay, is that what I normally look like? Like, am I typically that shook in a game of this magnitude? Like, I know I don't feel like that. And he goes out and he pitches lights out for them to seal the series in Game 5. And he looked the same in the World Series against the Dodgers. So something clicked there. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he was unburdened with being in the bullpen and knowing that role, or just, I don't know, the guy had an epiphany, and it obviously worked out for him.
Yeah, Jim, do you have any predictions for next season? I know we have a long free agency offseason to go. We got Bryce Harper out there. We have Manny Machado out there. But a lot of people are saying, and I'm actually going to throw this prediction out there, and I don't think he's going to go to this team, but I think the best team for Bryce Harper would go is Tampa Bay Rays. I think if he went to Tampa, especially with Blake Snell, him and Blake Snell are pretty close. And I think that Tampa is such a young team that maybe Bryce Harper could add so much more to that lineup. Where do you think Bryce Harper is going to go?
I hadn't heard that. That's a pretty interesting theory. And it's funny, they were, Kevin Cash is certainly going to get his votes for manager of the year, rightfully so, considering what he was able to do with that ragtag collection of players down there. If I'm him, just in terms of marketability, I wouldn't want to go there. I can understand what you mean by that. I would think the Yankees, you had Buster Olney out, but he had heard from a reputable source saying there's no way he ends up with New York. I don't know. Maybe St. Louis. I don't really know right now. Like, I need to read more into it in terms of what he's thinking. Obviously, it doesn't seem like he wants to go back to the Nationals now that report comes out that he turns down the $300 million deal. It feels like he's done there, but it feels like the logical place for Bryce Harper to go.
Do you want Manny Machado on the Red Sox?
No. I know he's a talented player, but I don't like the player. I think what you saw out of Manny Machado throughout the postseason, and never even mind the World Series, I think he's kind of a punk. There's a old Alex Rodriguez type of funk coming off of him that I'm not into. Like, going gets tough. He seems to fold. I'm good.
So if Manny Machado went to the Yankees and kind of reinvented the whole Yankee-Red Sox rivalry, who do you think would be like the Pedro, or is that rivalry guy on the Red Sox? Because Manny Machado would be that guy on the Yankees, the A-Rod type player. So who would be that on the Red Sox? Could it be David Price maybe?
No, probably Matt Barnes. I mean, there's some bad blood that's still left over from when Machado was with the Orioles from a couple of seasons ago. So, Barnes, I think, is the obvious choice. But beyond him, I think you could basically pick just about any pitcher, either in the rotation or the bullpen, and there'd probably be some beef, and especially some of the leftover stuff from how he, some of the borderline plays he had in the World Series, too. It would be good for theater. You're right about that. If Machado ended up with the Yankees, it would be good for, the old school Yankee and Red Sox bad blood thing.
Jim, we'll switch gears now and talk to the other team here in the Boston sports area, the New England Patriots. They are also in the hunt to do a deep playoff run. And watching this Patriots season, it seemed like the start of it usually starts. The Patriots start off slow every year, it seems like. But this year seems a little different to me. And I would say this, and I said this earlier, if the Patriots didn't win the division, which it looks like they will now, I think Tom Brady would have retired. I think Rob Gronkowski possibly could have retired, and maybe even Bill Belichick. And just now with the Patriots looking to win the division, looking to go for another playoff run, how crucial is it for the Patriots and almost have a win-now mentality in my mind, knowing that, look, Tom Brady might not be able to play for another 10 years, which he might want to, or Gronk maybe doesn't have another 5-6 years left, who knows about Bill Belichick. So, what do you feel like this is a must-win year for the New England Patriots?
I'm biased because they're the one team I root for the most, and I've become like a psychotic fan about. So it's always a must-win year. But look, you're right. I mean, anyone knows. I mean, the Brady window is closing here. I don't know how much space is really left between the window being open and it being shut at this point. I would maybe think another season or two. Of the three that you mentioned between Belichick, Brady, and Gronkowski, the guy I worry about the most being done is Gronk. I mean, he's been a shell of himself throughout this whole season. He's dealing with injuries. They're holding him out of games, and the rest of his meals through a straw for the rest of his life. So I know that has to be concerning him. Him having a down year and just statistically and how that's affecting him financially with the deal he has to be bugging him. Like, if he has a bad year or they get knocked out early, like, I could definitely see Gronk walking away.
So do you feel like I've said this all year long, but it seems like Bill Belichick is kind of lost that Bill Belichick touch. And what I mean by that, it almost seems like the Patriots, you think of them as a road dominant team and a home dominant team. And it seems like the Patriots are only dominant at home. And it seems like the Patriots almost play scared on the road. So do you think that falls back on the head coach, Bill Belichick, with that mentality on the road?
Scared on the road. They've been sloppy. I mean, even in some of the wins, like in Chicago, there's uncharacteristic stupidity that you see in terms of turnovers and penalties. Even in the Buffalo game, it was sloppy. I think that kind of stems from lack of focus. Some of the players that they have on this team, I'm not big fans of, like Cordell Patterson, who's kind of a jackass. There is a little bit of that 2009 feel-ish to this team, but not that bad. It feels like they lack focus at times, which is frustrating to watch. They're still good. I thought this win over the Packers was their most complete win, especially defensively, of the year. But you're right in that, how they played on the road hasn't been all that good. I would be impressed with them if they can rip off a couple here on the road with some of these tough ones that they come. This is kind of a tough spot with the Tennessee team that just, came out of a bye, had a win at Dallas. If they can win at Pittsburgh, like, I would be more of a believer, but it still feels like they're thin in areas. I wish that they did something at the trade deadline and added some depth, a linebacker, especially a running back. So, I don't know. I wouldn't say this is Belichick's worst job or anything like that. There's certainly been some questionable decisions.
How confident are you going forward, knowing that the Patriot team here wants to make a deep playoff push against teams like the Chiefs, like the possible Rams in the Super Bowl if they make it that far? Just, it seems like it's a very competitive NFL season this year. So how concerned are you as a Patriots fan going forward the rest of the season?
I don't have them in the Super Bowl. I didn't before the year. I'm sure I'll end up wrong about that. I'm just pessimistic that way, no matter what year it is. But no, look, I think the NFC is strong. I think AFC is stronger too. I mean, I think a lot of people are sleeping on that LA Chargers team. Phillip Rivers is playing at an MVP caliber type season. They got a creep up schedule, so they could easily end up with a bye and could knock off someone like a Kansas City or Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's found their way. This John Connor kid has filled in admirably for Le'Veon Bell. And in the NFC, look, I mean, it's the Saints were my pick to begin the year. I feel better about that by the week, and now they add Dez Bryant. Look, I never really thought in the first place that the Patriots made all that many improvements defensively to have them get back to the Super Bowl. So I'm sticking with that. I had Saints and Pittsburgh to start the season, and I'm sticking with it.
I joked earlier this NFL season when the Browns were very hot, I would say, instead of hopping on the bandwagon, I'm hopping on the Mayflower for Baker Mayfield. And, when you look at the Browns, it's almost translating to maybe even the Mets or maybe even the Baltimore Orioles comparative to the MLB. And they got rid of Josh Gordon. And Josh Gordon has been and meant so much to this Patriot team the past few games. So just looking at the Browns team, Baker Mayfield is playing pretty well for his rookie season. If you were the Browns general manager for a day, what would you do?
I would try to get Josh McDaniels out of New England and be my next head coach. And I think that would be a good spot for McDaniels as well. I mean, despite the fact he probably ruined his name as a head coach candidate anywhere else in the league after he burned Indianapolis last offseason, to have a guy like that that's worked with the best of all time in Brady and that obviously built up Jimmy Garoppolo in the Patriot system as well, I think that's kind of a perfect fit. You get a guy that's good with quarterbacks, obviously, offensive-minded. You have him work with one of the great young talents in the league in Baker Mayfield. I think that would be the perfect matchup. So if I'm that GM in Cleveland, I'm going after McDaniels to be the head coach.
Last question, Jimmy, before we wrap up this interview. What is your one favorite thing about your job as a sports broadcaster?
It's fun, man. I'm very lucky. I even on I'm using air quotes here. You obviously can't see it. Like on a bad day, and there's really no bad days. It's fun, man. I'm very lucky to have a job that I genuinely enjoy doing, and that's been important to me ever since I was like a little kid. Because
had one word to describe working with Felger and Maz every day, what word would you choose?
What word would I choose? Let's see. Entertaining. It is. I know those guys. Look, and there's days I want to strangle them, and I'm sure vice versa. Yeah, it's entertaining. They're a good duo to work with, and I'm also lucky to be working on that show.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jim, I want to say thank you again for coming on my show once again. And where can the Fuse Nation follow you on Twitter and listen to you wherever you are every day?
98.5 The Sports Hub, 98.5thesportshub.com. You can download the app on iTunes and Android. We're on 2 to 6 every single day, and I'm on Saturdays there. So, yeah, just listen to the station regardless, and on Twitter at Big Jim Murray.
Thank you again, Jim, for coming on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
All right, Fusation, just heard it from the Jim Murray from 98.5 The Sports Hub here in the Boston area. It's always great catching up with him. Very big friends of the show here, and maybe we should try to get Felger Maz on sometime. That'd be fun. Once again, Fusation, thanks again for listening. Be sure to be listening tomorrow night at 8:30 with Steve Perrault. He's a co-host on the Section 10 podcast along with Jerry Carabas. So Steve Perrault will be on Fusion News tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Once again, Fusation, I want to say thank you for listening, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at AlexFuse, and I will be seeing you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.